What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a brand new edition of Holding Court here on the First State Hoops Report YouTube channel. I'm, of course, First State Hoops Report founding editor Chris Stevens. Hopefully, you all are doing well out there. And well, the snow is starting to melt eventually. I mean, it's gonna melt eventually. We're supposed to get back up to the 50s this week. The bad news is we're supposed to have rain all the way through the second half of next week. So we go from the snow to the rain. So once again, exercise caution. Be careful out there for those of you who are driving. And if we get more postponements, then it is what it is. Because like I said last time, we really just have to keep people safe because there's no sense in anybody getting hurt or worse trying to get to a basketball game or high school sporting event for any event for that matter. So be safe, drive slow, and beware of people that can't drive, which is a lot of people around here, to be quite honest with you. But anyway, this week's Holding Court, I do want to get into something that's really, really important that doesn't have as much to do with on-the-court stuff as it does, getting to games or whatever. But to get started with the basketball aspect of things, we were at St. Elizabeth Dover yesterday, and that was the game of the year. I said there would be some game of the year candidates coming down the pike, eventually that would, start being talked about as one of those ones. But St. E. Dover was one of those ones yesterday. It had a little bit of everything. I mean, Darrell Little Jr. scored his 1,000th career point. Great job out of him. And he made it look easy. I mean, it was an easy 31. I mean, he worked hard for those points, but it wasn't like, St. E just had him, throwing everything up just for hopes of going in. Like, he was getting to his spots where he wanted, getting the looks he wanted, maybe except for the last look. We'll talk about that in a minute. But, he's the first boy this year to do it. We've had three girls before him, Josiah Crawford from Caravel, Reagan Robinson from Woodbridge, and of course this past week I had a chance to see as well Delaney Burrows from Odessa. Congratulations to those young ladies and that young man. Great job out of them. 1,000 points is nothing to sneeze at, regardless of the level. We just saw Jair Davis score his 1,000th Division I point with University of Delaware, and he's done it in 3 years. Got to be good to play, man. That's really all it boils down to. So, as far as the rest of that game goes, there was a little bit of everything. Once again, said Darrell Jr. scored his 1,000th point. Dover had a sizable lead at one point. They led by 9 in the second quarter. Then they led by about 6 or 7 in the third. And it just felt like, okay, maybe this is where St. E's unbeaten streak stops. But as I told y'all before, this team has the ability to just turn the switch on like nobody's business. And as I said before, it's coming, but you just don't know when it's coming. And in the second half of that game, Mike Cassidy, I thought, made a great adjustment by putting Caden Harris on Denham Perkins because Caden gave Denham a lot of problems, with respect to him getting to his spots, setting up the Dover offense, and they couldn't get everything going. I mean, Darrell was the only guy in double figures, with 31. I mean, again, it was a fantastic 31, but if Dover gets a little more scoring from the rest of their team, they probably win that game. But Harris did a great job on Perkins defensively, hit a big shot coming down the stretch. But Steven Nixon Jr., I mean, I come away impressed with that young man more and more every time I see him. It's just like there's no fear. I mean, the main thing now, what's the word I'm looking for here? I guess the trending topic is we'll say, everybody says they got that dog in him, but yeah, he's got that dog in him. I mean, he literally just took it baseline, between two Dover defenders, two of Dover's bigger defenders, because Javion Dennis is like 6'5", and Ice Norwood's like 6'3", 6'4", and Stevie goes about 6'1", maybe, and he just, puts this nice little teardrop up between the two of them and drops it, and that ends up being a winning basket. And Chase Little had a good look at three, bounced long. Darrell got the rebound. I'm not going to say that. I mean, he was contested. I'm not saying he was fouled. I'm going to say he was really contested shot. Couldn't get it to go, and St. E is still unbeaten, 10-0. They're not the last unbeaten, however, because there are 3 others. You've got Odessa at 10-0. You've got Lake Forest at 9-0, and you've got Seaford at 9-0. And those two teams play January 30th, Lake Forest and Seaford at Lake. They were actually supposed to play last Tuesday the 16th, but of course we had snow. So that first Lake Seaford meeting is going to be at Lake in a week's time. We're going to try and get down there for that one. It really depends on what our work schedule's like, with the, car situation. So, yeah, just being able to figure that out, but that should be an interesting matchup. Odessa right now, they have the talent, but they still, there's still some teams left on their schedule that they haven't seen yet. I mean, pretty much everybody that would be considered a Flight A championship contender is still on their schedule. They have Apple coming up at Unlock the Light, not this coming Saturday, but the next Saturday. They still have Penn. They still have Middletown. St. George's, you can't discount St. George's either. I think they play St. George's this week, if I'm not mistaken. So this is going to be an interesting stretch coming up for Odessa. Oh, and Odessa still has Howard on the schedule. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to find out a lot about Odessa in short order. I still have yet to get to a game to see them, but that is going to change because I'm going to see them and Unlock the Light. Very much looking forward to that event. Every year we'll talk about that next week, I believe. But yeah, right now, St. Elizabeth is the best team in the state. I don't think you can make an argument for anyone else at this point. Salesiana has the most talent, and they're defending state champs. They're going to be heard from before the season's out. Dover has a ton of talent. They've played really well. But right now, St. Elizabeth is rolling, man. You can't discount what they've done. 10-0, and it's been they're in the Diamond State Conference. I mean, of course, they're going to play some teams that just aren't up to their speed at this point. If Jalen Horsey's still at Conrad, that's probably a better game. But they've already beaten Conrad pretty soundly. First State Military Academy. I mean, hey, man. But, they've also beaten William Penn. They've also beaten Appoquinimink. They've also beaten Salesianum. And then yesterday they just beat Dover. So you can't take anything away from what this St. Elizabeth team has done so far. They're doing a phenomenal job. Very much looking forward to seeing how Mike Cassidy's boys finish out the season. And it would not surprise me we kind of need it. I mean, if I don't know if you pray, if you meditate, if you're one of the witchy woo-woo girls or guys, if you do any of those things, put them all out there into the universe, that we get Dover and St. Elizabeth's at the bottom, whether it's the championship game or the Final Four, because we got to see that game again. It was it was everything high school basketball should be, and it was everything that high school basketball was when I was coming along. I mean, again, I came along in the 90s. So, sound like Steve Harvey. I'm old school. What your ass say? No, okay, now let me stop. But yeah, back in those days, you had Howard versus Wilmington High, Howard versus Hodson, Glasgow versus Newark, Glasgow versus Christiana versus William Penn, St. Mark's versus Salesianum, Dover versus Cape Henlope, and Cesar Rodney versus Dover. These were the games that you turned out for, and you got a good game every time. It was rare to somebody that was considered 1 versus 2 or 2 versus 3 or whatever, and it ended up being a romp. That just didn't happen. Everybody played close to each other right up until maybe like the final seconds, or even some classic games that have come down to the last shot. But this St. Dover game was everything high school basketball should be, and it was very fun to watch. And very great job by both of those teams yesterday. Again, Stephen Wilson's doing a wonderful job with Dover. They're still very much a team you have to consider a state championship contender. St. Elizabeth is a state championship contender, probably not even the dark horse favorite. Let me be serious, the favorite right now. I mean, Salesianum, they're still playing their tough out-of-conference schedule. So they will be heard from before the end of the season. You still have to think William Penn's going to be good. Middletown is rolling along right now. There's a lot to like about the boys' side of things. You can pick a champion if you want to right now on January 21st, but we don't find out who the champion is until March 9th. So take from that what you will. Girls' side of things, I went to 3 girls' games this week. I saw Ursuline AI DuPont on Martin Luther King Day, and that game went about as expected, but I will say that people are going to look at the score and be misled. Don't be misled. AI DuPont played very, very solid basketball against Ursuline. They just couldn't make a shot until it didn't matter. The shots that they missed that were like from in close early on, they just started falling, and the longer shots started falling as well by the time Gigi and Taylor were on the bench. So, and again, I'm not discounting anything AI did. AI played very well, but when you turn the ball over as much as they did against 2 girls that can turn a steal into 2 points in about 3 seconds, you're asking for trouble. And that's pretty much what AI's trouble was on Monday. Turned the ball over, couldn't get the shots to fall. They missed a ton of free throws as well. So AI is probably the best public school team right now on the girls' side. Very much, I don't think there's a doubt that they are the ones on the public school side of things that are good. Apple's starting to come along. I'll talk about Woodbridge in a minute. Cape is starting to come back around. But right now, if there was one public school team that I would have to pick, hold on, no, I mean, there are a ton of girls teams that you can pick. We'll talk about them in a minute. If there's one public school team that I feel like could surprise maybe one of the teams like a Sanford or a St. Elizabeth, it'd have to be AI. But, there's still a whole season to play, and AI has a very interesting game this Friday. They will face the only other unbeaten in Flight B, and that's Curtis Clack's Howard's team. And Clack's girls, they play a disciplined brand of ball under him. They press, they take advantage of turnovers. So it's going to be like, mirror images of each other when AI and Howard girls play on Friday. And yes, I will be in the building for that. Wednesday, I took a detour to Red Lion, and people were like, Chris, what are you doing at Red Lion? Well, Delaney Burrows scored her 1,000th point. She's at Odessa now. Her first 3 years were at Red Lion. It's interesting because she the countdown, I got countdown notifications from different people that she was this many away, this was this many away, and she had only needed 17 points to get to that mark. And the thing was that Odessa had a game that was originally scheduled for Tuesday against Wilmington Charter, but of course it snowed, and that game was moved to a different date. So Wednesday game, the second night of a back-to-back, which just turned out to be their one game this week, was at Red Lion. And Red Lion, they did all the prerequisite stuff to try to stop her, guarding her, face guarding her 94 feet from the basket, making other players bring the ball up because Delaney is obviously Odessa's point guard. She initiates their offense. But eventually, she had 3 points in the first quarter. Then she got the 14 she needed in the second quarter for her 1,000 point. Once again, congratulations to her. Again, high school basketball, 1,000 points is no joke. Because as Sean Green and I have talked about, Sean Green has made it clear to me, he made a great point that I'm always going to reference on his channel. You have to be durable and you have to be good because you have to play at least 60 high school games over the course of 4 years and average 16, 17 points a game in those 60 games to get to 1,000 points. So however you get there is however you get there. So these, again, the young ladies that have done it, Josiah Crawford, Reagan Robinson, Delaney Burrows, and the guy this year, Darrell Little Jr., all deserve a ton of credit for getting there. So Odessa as a team, I like their size. They have some girls that they can throw at you for rebounding and defense purposes. Feels like Delaney and Alana Savage are their best offensive threats right now. So right now, them and Middletown are the only two teams above 500 in Flight A at this point. But Apple, again, they play Kevin Smith. Shout out to Coach Smith. He did a great job, putting a schedule together non-conference wise that was going to challenge them. Oh yeah, and it challenged Apple. But the good news is it made them very, very strong for Flight A. I still think Apple wins Flight A. They haven't lost a Flight A game yet. I know they have Caravel this week on Thursday. I'm going to try to make it to that one. I got to look at what's going on the 25th, make sure I don't have any other existing conflicts, and I'll probably drive down to Middletown for that one, West Middletown. And because of, it's going to take a long drive because let me tell y'all, man, it's the principal thing for me. I'm not paying $1 to drive to Middletown, $3 on the weekend. I'm not. And people are like, Chris, well, how do you do that? Well, for me, because I live in North Wilmington, I get on 95 South, I get off at 896, and then I take Route 15 all the way back to Apple. That's how I get to Apple. So I'm not paying the $5, man. I'm not paying the $5. Dover, Smyrna, okay. But Middletown and Apple, absolutely not. It's just the principle. I'll take 13 all the way into Middletown before I get on Route 1 to go to Middletown or Apple. That's just the way it is. And my third girls game this week, I made it my business to see early college because people really were like really upset, really, trying to question my integrity, quite honestly, my credibility as a journalist, which I, had to let somebody else know that I'm not the one or the two for that. But I had to go see them against Woodbridge because they were the 1 and 2 in the Henlopen South. And after that, I came away thinking that as young and as, not as depth-oriented as Woodbridge is, they're still far and away the best team in the Henlopen South because Reagan Robinson is a kid that really needs to be talked about more when we talk about first team All-State, when we talk about, potential player of the year candidates and, college offers because she can play. Like every time I've seen her, she's shown out. Mostly it's been in the loss, but every time I've seen her play, she's shown out. This time it was in a win. And she did some things. Like you can see the highlights. I mean, just check for the Woodbridge ECS game on this very channel. She did some behind the back, fade away from deep in the step back from deep in the corner. She had one of these little step aside joints that Michael Jordan used to do. She had a nice little behind the back, dribble pass to a teammate. She does it all. It's not like, yes, she has to score for Woodbridge to win. Make no mistake about it. But she finds her teammates in the spots where they need to be. And Tiana Neal played a very good game as well. Her and Anaya Taylor took advantage of their height because they were literally like at least a head taller than anybody else on the ECS squad. And they definitely took advantage of that. So that Woodbridge team is solid. I don't know if they're Final Four bound again this year, but they'll get out of the first round again. Probably maybe with a good matchup, they'll probably get back to a quarterfinal. So it really all depends on how the brackets shake out. And that's something else we'll talk about in a second. But overall, really good week. Saw 4 games this week. Normally, I try to make it to at least 3. The last couple of times I've been 2 because of the rain and the snow or whatever. But seeing 4 games in a week is good for me. Coming up, though, I'm going to try to ramp it up to get to a minimum of 4, whether it's 2 girls or 2 guys, 3 girls, 1 guy, 3 guys, 1 girl game. I'm going to try to get to as many as I can because we're getting to a point now where our esteemed boss at the Delaware Sports and Broadcasters Association, Chuck Duraney, is going to reach out to us and say, hey, guys, here's your brackets. Fill them out before the quarters. No, is it before the quarters or the semis? Doggone it, I can't remember. I'll figure it out. But Chuck will tell us anyway. But, yeah, that's one thing people forget. Everybody thinks, oh, man, why don't y'all wait until the state championship game to do it? We can't do it like that. We cannot do it like that. We have to pick. For all intents and purposes, all state is a regular season award. Like giving the first 2 tournament games is generous, to be honest. But we have to look over everybody's body of work over 18, 19, 20 games. And when we do that, that's when we put our ballots in. And again, we ask coaches. When they say, whenever we publicize this, as voted by the Delaware Sports Writers and Broadcast Association and coaches. So coaches have a say in this too. And we've had coaches that have either filled out the barest of minimums of ballots or didn't return a ballot at all. So I'm just being honest about it. And I'm going to be honest about something else in a minute. I got one more thing before I get to the important matter of the week. And I want to let you guys know that if you've been following First State Hoops Report the last couple of years, I do this thing called 24 More. That is where I predict or break down the chances of each team that has a shot at the state tournament, based on their record, their schedule, what they have coming up. There's going to be teams that are going to be safe. Let me put my hand in the picture. There's teams going to be safe. There's going to be teams that are going to be on the bubble. Now, let me remind y'all, when you see 24 more, and if you see your team safe, don't take anything for granted. If you see your team on the bubble, do not yell at me because you have the opportunity. Your team has the opportunity to change that because we don't know until these folks get in the room on Friday, February 24th, and hopefully we'll have that streamed because none of the DIA meetings recently have been streamed. That's something I'm going to talk about in a minute. But yeah, we won't know until these until the basketball committee gets in the room on February 24th. That's pretty much it. All of us in the media game are just, figuring this out as we go. Because, again, not everybody updates their schedule. Not everybody updates their record, especially the out-of-state teams. The out-of-state teams are terrible at it. Terrible. Like, you go to Max Preps and see a team that is 4-3 or 5-6 or 6-1, and it's February 15th. Now, good and doggone well that you played more than 7 games through the midway point of February. So if anybody from out of state that has played a Delaware team sees this, we're looking at you. For the love of God, Allah, Buddha, Jehovah Jireh, Yahweh, fill out your doggone Max Prep thing fully so we can handicap these results properly. Thank you. Just want to get that off my chest. And I got something else I want to get off my chest as we close out this edition of Holy Court. There is an interesting conversation going on within the media circles right now as to the future of DIA access. We've received word that the passes that we have now may not be honored through the rest of the regular season, and that we're going to have to reapply for media passes during the before the state tournament. Honestly, I got to remind myself to do that tomorrow. Honestly, and this isn't a shot at DIA. It's definitely not a shot at Dave Baylor, who I've talked to quite a bit. Very nice gentleman. He is, but he comes from law enforcement, so yes, he's going to lay down the law. And right now, I want to be really honest about this whole thing as far as it pertains to basketball, as far as it pertains to coverage and media and journalism versus content creation. I'm actually going to get further in depth into this into a national level. This is just on a micro level. I'm going to get into it on a macro level on my YouTube channel. So against my better judgment, I'm going to give you guys the link to my YouTube channel. My personal YouTube channel. Well, it's not my personal YouTube channel. I mean, it's basically me, talking about everything that isn't basketball, like music, the things that I like music, cars, topics of interest I like to discuss, like television, social issues, that type of stuff. So yeah, I'll give you the guys a link to my YouTube channel. Don't abuse it. Don't abuse this privilege. That's all I ask. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to go into a macro level about journalism on my YouTube channel. That video should probably be up either Monday or Tuesday. But as far as on a micro level, which means down here in Delaware, I think that those of us who have been in this a long time are really frustrated because, again, we're seeing an influx of young people with cameras. And I said it on the live, and I'm going to say it again. I feel like the content creation game, it's not what we're used to, but it's the way of life now. The kids love it. Their parents love it. And those of us who are journalists, we feel kind of left out in the cold, so to speak, because of it. But at the same time, we have the ability to adjust and adapt, those of us who still have the energy to do so. And I want to say this to every young photographer out there that I've come across in my travels. I got no problems with y'all. In fact, I look through your stuff and I love what you do. Like the stuff these young people do is very cinematic. Like I can't do it like they do it. Like I'm an old journalist. Like I'm an old dude. Like literally, I started doing this in 2002. If you think about how long ago 2002 was, I think gas was like $1.50 or something. I think the record that was the hottest that at that time literally was Hot in Her by Nelly. That's how long ago we're talking that I started in this industry. And at that time, people still wanted to read long stories. People still wanted to look into investigative journalism and see, behind the scenes and all of that. And a lot of that has deteriorated because people don't like to read. And the most important thing that I'm going to get into on my channel is people don't like, being questioned or challenged, the people that are being reported on. They don't like being questioned or challenged in the things that they do. And that is a challenge, to any journalist who understands the who, what's, when's, where, why's, and how's, which is what we were taught in J school. And these kids, now, and for high school basketball, I mean, we really don't have any real meaningful investigations to talk about, quite frankly. I mean, if we do, then we have a problem. But it's mostly go to the game, see what you see, talk to a coach, talk to a player, write it up. That's it. But now it's more of a visual aspect to it. Like these kids love to see themselves, with these cinematic things that people like Bruce Wayne and 360 and Maddie Miller and all these great young folks are doing. Like people like to see that stuff. And again, I'm too old to do it. Like I have a day job, I have other passions. I can't literally just stop and figure out how to make these movie type highlight reels. Like everything you see I shoot is very news oriented. It's like bam, 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 bam. These folks, they add the music, they add the slow-mo. It's dope. And I think if we are going to start pushing them out, we're doing the game a real disservice. And if we're doing the game a disservice, then we can't be mad when people complain about how boring high school basketball is in Delaware. Yes, as a journalist, trained journalist, again, I've been doing this for 22 years, it's very frustrating to feel like, your craft doesn't have as much significance, doesn't carry as much weight as it used to. But if you still want to find a way, you'll find a way. I'm a firm believer in that. I'll make a way out of no way, as the old folks used to say. But instead of, cracking down on the young people with cameras, we should be embracing them. In fact, honestly, if I had the money, I'd be hiring some of these folks to shoot for me, help me with my highlights and stuff. But that's not realistic at this point. I hope it is in the future. Once again, while we're on the subject, the link to donate will be in the description below. If you like what I do, if you want to help me make this a financially solvent thing where I can pay others and myself, you can donate at the link below. Help us get started. It's year 5. I mean, we've been started, but we could use a little help. But yeah, overall, these young folks, honestly, it's so frustrating because I've had people reach out and say, hey, Chris, you need any help? And I'm like, I can't pay you. And I firmly believe in, compensating people for their talents and their work. So if I can't pay you, then I'm not going to bother you. It's really that simple. But yeah, the media pass thing, I did get some word that people were making fake passes, and you can't do that. You can't. I mean, granted, the pass thing has always been scattershot, regardless of who's been in charge. Like, you can't pin this on Dave Baylor. You can't pin it on Tommy Newbarrow. You can't pin it on Jed Bell. You can't pin it on Donna Pope. I mean, as long as I've been working with DIA, which is a very long time, the media pass thing has always been like hit or miss. You either have to go down there, you have to make the drive to Dover, or just keep emailing and sending leaving voice messages and say, hey, I need my pass. Hey, I need my pass. Hey, I need my pass. That's regardless of who's in charge. Hopefully that will change under Mr. Baylor's leadership. That is my hope and prayer. But overall, I just want to say that, it's dangerous that we're going to start kind of giving high school sports in Delaware this exclusive nature that you can only do it this certain way. You can only do it that way, because the 21st century is, proven that until we get back to a point of where people want to read stuff, you got to have a visual the aspect of it. And the young folks that create these visuals, they are great at it. Do they, there are people that follow certain teams and certain players, yes, but, those folks are the ones with the following. And when we'll say if a certain content creator is creating highlights for one of the top 5 players in the state, and that top 5 player in the state has like a serious following on Instagram, that is money in that content creator's pocket, because the reel count just rises and rises and rises and rises and rises. Like, I've seen some young people out here with reels that are like 6 figures. I'm struggling to get to 4-figure views on my reels. So, these young folks got it, man. I mean, instead of, shunning them, we need to be embracing them. We need to be bringing them into the fold. We need to be encouraging them, giving them some game. And if anybody needs to, hit me up for some help or advice on how to, best leverage your content, I can give you the best advice I can. Because again, some of the young folks, I've been doing this longer than y'all been alive. And I'm not a selfish dude. I'm not an old hater in the club. Like, if y'all need somebody to reach out to and say, hey, Chris, how would you do this differently? Or, what can I do to make this better? Or how can I, expand? Don't be afraid to ask. I'm here. I mean, the First Day Hoops Report IG feed, the Twitter account, the email address, it will all be in the description below. Holla at your boy. I'll be glad to help you. So I just wanted to make that distinction clear that, yes, it's frustrating for us who have been journalists for a long time, but we either have to adjust, adapt, or die. Those are our choices. The younger folks right now, the content creation game, this is where it's at. We can either adjust, adapt, or just or just give up. And quite frankly, I've come too far to give up. My entire journalism story, if I told you guys that's going to be a several part thing. In fact, I really just need to write my journalism memoir. My therapist told me to do it, and I just Totally forgot about it, but I'm going to get back to writing my journalism memoirs, and maybe I'll do like, a series on my YouTube channel about, my career in the field. But, I've come too far to give up. Resiliency is that's a trait that I developed in my own time, just being able to not give up, not surrender, find a way. And, just we can't be the bitter guys. We can't be the bitter folks in the business. We can't be the old dudes in the club hating on the young people, having a good time. Because we at this point, we probably gonna be out of the club sooner rather than later. And somebody's got to pick up this mantle of, content creation and, getting the word out there about different things. So instead of, being mad at these young kids taking up space on the baseline or whatever, let's show them a better way to do it. And let's show them a way that they can expand on that and be greater than what they are, because the content they're putting out now is phenomenal, but with more experience, they can be greater. So that's just something I wanted to, say to anybody that's watching this, that, yeah, we're journalists. Yeah, we still have a responsibility to tell the truth and different things of that nature, but we can't be mad that things are trending in a different direction. We can only either help these folks or just leave them out to dry. And that's not what I'm going to do, honestly. So once again, if you're a young content creator, if you're watching this, if you need some advice or you just need, some game, I'm here. And that's just that's my take on the past situation. Like, yes, we need to have a system in place, but we also don't want to shun people that are giving light to what was a drab atmosphere. Like a lot of these kids, again, the kids love the reels, the parents love the reels, the schools love the reels. I've seen schools using people's reels, for crying out loud, with credit added. Like, they just not ripping them off. They just like, wow, look at this video about this young person they shot for us. That's great. That's great. We need to be embracing this. We don't need to be mad at the kids because the game is changing. We need to change with the game. That's really what it boils down to. And that's going to do it for this edition of Holding Court. Greatly appreciate y'all's time as always. In case you need to get in touch with us, all the social media info, all the email addresses, all the foolishness. No, not all the foolishness, but everything that you need will be in the description below. And once again, also the donation link will be in the description below. If you feel so moved, if your parents feel so moved, if your fan base, if your fan club feels so moved, every cent counts. Every cent counts. So thank y'all once again for watching this edition of Holding Court. Until the next time we speak and we see each other in these gyms, y'all take care of yourselves and each other. Doggone it. Okay, now we're done. Bye.